it's Greg Grunberg, Snap Wexley from Heroes, and Commander Finnegan of Yorktown from a little thing called Star Trek, and you are kneeling before the pod.
Kneel Before Blog presents Kneel Before Pod.
Hello, and welcome to another scoundrel-ridden edition of Kneel Before Pod, the podcast that always rounds down, especially where the running time is concerned. A new Star Wars movie is on the big screen and we must talk about it. I'm your host Craig, and I'm going to pull together a crew for a special job. That job is, of course, talking about Solo, a Star Wars story. First up, rumour has it he did the Kessel Run in even more parsecs. In fact, he actually didn't do it at all. It's Chris.
Hello.
How do you feel being a liar about your accomplishments?
Well, I thought I had a shortcut, but it turned out the shortcut was the wrong way, and then I didn't want to ask for directions, so it just ended up sort of coming out the other side of a nebula. I had to go back round, I'll get it done eventually. I'll get around to it.
That's cool. We're very lazy on this podcast, so that's fine. Next up, we have our very own scruffy-looking nerve herder. It's Angus.
Who you calling scruffy-looking?
You, apparently.
Ugh.
And last but by no means least, she has the death penalty in 12 systems. It's Natalie.
What? Who? Me?
Yeah.
Is it actually me?
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like that's a compliment, so thank you.
Or 12 systems want to kill you. Who knows?
We can make it more.
We can make it more.
There's plenty of time.
There's plenty of time, plenty of systems. So, before we start our solo podcast, which is thankfully not solo, there's more than one person here, which is great. So we're going to continue with our hit new feature, Kneel Before, Rise Against. Angus and Natalie making their debut for the first time. Well, debut is the first time. Yes, they're here for the first time doing this. Yeah. So I will pick randomly. Angus, you go first. What are you kneeling before on this edition?
I am kneeling before a Netflix documentary series called The Toys That Made Us. Season 2 has just appeared on Netflix, which I haven't actually watched yet, but I remember watching Season 1 in a kind of fevered haze, binged it at New Year when I was ill, and kind of reminisced about He-Man toys and things like that. But I see that in Season 2 they're covering some Star Wars toys, I think, and Transformers as well, so looking forward to that.
Cool. I have seen this advertised on Netflix. I just haven't watched it yet, but yeah, I feel like I would enjoy it. Do they talk about Spider-Man toys?
Not that I've seen so far. There is Lego coming up in this one, so that's pretty Lego. Fundamental.
Oh, sounds cool.
Yep.
That is the toy, though, isn't it? They've got to bring it up.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought Buzz Lightyear was like
it's all consuming now. I mean, it's everything. It's computer games. It's everything. Movies.
Eventually you'll be able to build your own house out of Lego.
Oh, someday.
Someone somewhere has already done it, no doubt.
Yeah, probably. And then they're really, really upset when it just falls down because it's made of Lego.
And imagine walking about barefoot in a Lego house.
It would be a challenge.
I think it'd be a really smooth floor if you just put the bricks sideways.
Or upside down.
No, that would hurt even more.
That'd be like living in a house full of potholes. It'd be a nightmare.
I know, it'd be so gross.
You would get
and
like Lego shoes that plug into them, then you can walk on walls.
Okay, we've got to stop the podcast and make that thing now.
That's it. We're just going to build Lego now. That's the 100th podcast you'll be listening to us building Lego. It'll be really frustrating. We'll all hate each other.
I'd actually really like to do that. Can we do that?
I don't think it's the best audio experience for people.
I think it could be the best.
Satisfying plastic clicking into other bits of plastic.
There'd be all sorts of swearing as we don't agree on things, and we're not coordinated, and things fall down.
Well, as long as people do things my way, we'll be fine.
And there it starts. So, Natalie, what are you kneeling before this week?
Jurassic Park. No, I'm not kneeling before that. I did enjoy it. Let's go with Chris Pratt. I'm kneeling before Chris Pratt.
And what's Chris Pratt done lately that that requires a kneel before?
He saved some dinosaurs.
It's lewd. That's lewd.
He saved some dinosaurs,
Spoiler.
and he's really cute.
So you enjoyed him in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom then?
Yeah, and I also really enjoyed him in that interview that he had with Chris Mackerel as well.
Well, I don't know how we're going to explain that to listeners.
You can put it in like a post-script thing.
This week on Did Not Happen. Might do a post-credit scene where we put in, or we can't because it wasn't recorded.
Yeah. Sorry. My interview with Chris Pratt wasn't recorded. I did do it, but accidentally I erased the tape.
No one pressed record.
Yeah.
No one
You just
pressed
wanted
record.
it to exist. You just wanted it to exist between you.
Do you know what? I wanted it to be a moment between me and a fellow Chris, and I didn't think that other people not called Chris should share it.
Well, that's really nice.
That's
I
reasonable.
agree.
Reasonable.
I'm okay with it.
Don't miss Chris with Pine and Evans
Coming soon.
Coming soon.
on Chris to Chris.
And,
Oh my
there's
god,
no-
Chris, make that a thing. Chris to
And then
Chris.
I will try and make it a thing. I will try.
And there'll be a Hemsworth eventually. Maybe not Chris Hemsworth, but a Hemsworth. We'll just find some guy called David Hemsworth and invite him on the podcast. I don't know.
That is the worst name ever.
We might be able to get Akabusi.
I was thinking Kamara, but you know, we can get it. We'll try.
Yeah, might be equally gettable.
So Natalie enjoyed Jurassic World to some degree. I also liked it, which surprised me because I thought the first Jurassic World was a lot of tripe. So
What?
yeah, I didn't like it, but I liked this one. And
Did you do a podcast already for Jurassic Park, for Jurassic World?
no, not got enough to say about it to do an entire
I do.
podcast.
Oh my god! Like,
my
what
God.
was that all about with the girl? Like, absolutely
Well,
mental.
spoilers. If you want to know what I thought of Jurassic World, then the review is linked in the show notes. Chris, you saw
read
it.
it.
Did you like it?
I did actually. I think it's one of the better of the sequels. One of the better of the Jurassic Park sequels.
There's a great yardstick.
There you go.
Brilliant.
I
Angus,
feel
did
like
you
we
enjoy
need
it?
to talk about this. Did you enjoy it?
Well, it's a bit of a spoiler for my Rise Against.
Really?
Let's
Yeah.
leave it then.
Oh my god, I'm intrigued.
Until the appropriate section. Chris, what are you kneeling before?
I am kneeling before the fact that we are getting a couple of new Kingsman movies on the horizon. We're
And
going to be
like a
getting
TV series and a Lego set and
we are getting a prequel movie that's going to take place in the 1900s.
oh,
Yeah.
Like
And,
1999?
slightly earlier than 1999.
1993?
Slightly earlier. You're getting warmer. You are getting warmer.
Like the
Era
80s?
of free will.
So the
tell it
early,
before we die.
all I have at the moment is the early 1900s. So let's go with that.
The
and
early 1900s.
and then the follow up to that, we are going to get what we'd call Kingsman 3. So like a sequel rather than a prequel sequel.
In some kind of spin-off
Yeah.
TV show, I think.
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to hear a confession?
Yeah.
I've never seen one of those films.
You might not like them.
Why? Chris
They're-
used to be loving them.
There are reasons that I think you specifically won't like them.
Why is that?
I'm not going to go into it because that would be a spoiler for a film we're not here to talk about.
It doesn't have Chris Pratt in
Okay.
it, so that will knock a star off in your estimation, unfortunately.
That's not true.
Well,
Not true.
anyway, that's a topic to be revisited at a later date.
Do you think I should watch one?
The first one's the best. The second one is pretty good, I think, but there are points in it where, I was not liking it. That's all I'll say about it. There are some points in it where I'm like, you pushed it a bit too far there. Mm-hmm. Good use of Elton John in the sequel, though, it has to be said.
What? Is he actually in it?
Yes.
Or just the music?
Quite
Is
a
he actually in it?
significant role.
Very good use of Elton John.
In fact, when I put my review, I put that as one of the Neil Befores. Great use of Elton John. Maybe not in those exact words, but definitely it was mentioned.
Why not? It should have been.
Well deployed, John.
That's it. Well deployed.
All of the jokes I want to do right now are not broadcastable.
That's
I will
it.
save them for later.
Yeah.
Do it. I
Save
want
it
to
for
hear
Chris to
them.
Chris after dark.
Dark is my favourite.
Okay, I am kneeling before the trailer for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which
Did not see
is,
that.
if you don't know, is an animated film that Sony are making about Spider-Man. It's coming out at Christmas. The protagonist in this film is Miles Morales, so that's a bit different. And he's kind of being mentored by an alternate universe, schlubby, older Peter Parker. The animation looks really cool. Story looks like it'll be a lot of fun. It looks like Sony might manage to make a good Spider-Man movie for once. So I'm excited. I think it looks really great.
How many times do we have to talk about Spider-Man and
Well,
new releases?
I'm a
this
huge
podcast?
fan of Spider-Man, so a lot.
Lots, probably.
Jesus wept.
I was surprised when you didn't talk about this on the Legion podcast that went up, because I thought Craig's definitely going to mention the Into the Spider-Verse trailer,
Yeah,
and you
but I had
didn't.
Bumblebee to talk about then, and
You
I thought
did.
that was good. So
You did, but I was
I've got loads of these.
I was going to mention it, and then I was like, no, Craig's definitely going to want to talk about this. So, yeah, the trailer looks really, really good. Great that it's getting a focus on Miles Morales, and I don't know, maybe that then brings him into canon properly for the films? Who knows?
No, it's like a separate thing.
I know it's kind of a separate universe, but testing the water, maybe?
He can show up in the films, sure. He will at some point, I would imagine. But yeah, that's cool. Animated film out in the cinema at Christmas. Might not be terrible. I'm keen.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. Maybe I can be swayed by the trailer. And to be fair, I did enjoy the last film of Spider-Man that we accidentally saw. So,
Accidentally,
like,
so.
maybe it was just like the period of like between 2000 and 2015 that I didn't like.
That's quite a high number of years.
I just made those years up, so I don't know if they're accurate. Sorry.
Close enough. So that's all the good stuff out the way. Angus, what are you rising against?
I, as alluded to earlier, am rising against more Jurassic World. I know that, and you also mentioned that, judging it against other Jurassic Park sequels doesn't really, put it up there with some of the greatest filmmaking ever. But this one left me thinking we're kind of heading down the road of Rise of the Planet of the Dinosaurs, Dawn of the Planet of the Dinosaurs, War for the Planet of the Dinosaurs, etc., etc.
I haven't seen those films, so I can't.
Because they don't exist.
The other ones.
He's alluding to something else.
No, I haven't seen them, so I couldn't say. But I did find this one quite hilarious. I thought it was really funny. There were some really laugh out loud moments of, are they really doing that? That is so funny.
See,
Taking it to an extreme.
I liked it because it wasn't a rubbish copy of Jurassic Park. I mean, there are parts of it I really liked, but also I kept thinking, wow, this is not trying to be Jurassic Park, and that's not bad. It's not the same franchise anymore. It doesn't feel like the same franchise anymore, but maybe that's okay, because the same franchise has just been derivative since the second one, so...
Yeah, we sort of talked about this, didn't we?
Put a dog kennel in it and it's Jurassic Park 2.
I'd say it's more resident Jurassic Park. There's a haunted house, there's dinosaurs in a house,
Oh god, that house.
Or also known as...
That was
Or
crazy.
Dino Crisis.
Oh, that was crazy.
Dino Crisis is the other one.
I legit cried as well. Like, it made me really sad.
Yeah, how did Babe's dad not know that all those dinosaurs were going on down there?
You know? That guy was and there were so many bad guys. Like, oh no, wait, there's more. Like, mate, stop it with the bad people and dinosaurs.
Yeah. You're listening to the Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom spoiler edition.
Is that what the film's actually called?
Yes,
I didn't know that.
there you go. So, Natalie, what are you rising against?
I was trying to think of this because, like 5 minutes ago, when you were like, "Oh, what are you kneeling before?" and I feel like I got it wrong because
You're rising against homework, Natalie.
I'm rising against. What happened? What was bad?
New formats?
No, because on my CV it says that I'm adaptable and like down with change. So
Can you
don't
think on
do
your
that.
feet?
Yeah.
Stand up then.
Oh, So I'm going to have to edit this podcast heavily to make it look like you had something right away ready in case any
No,
potential
I think
employers
people
listening
need to
to it.
hear the thought processes that go on behind these things. I'm rising against working too much. I should have said I kneel before having my first ever solo exhibition. Solo? Ah, no, but legit, that was true.
Yes, and we were at it and we read to you, which was...
You are. Thank you so much for coming. It was really, really cool.
You're welcome. It was quite a unique experience. It has to be said.
I'm going to take that as a compliment.
Chris has been silent with his own feedback.
Link in
Now
the
I
show
just
notes.
dropped a minute.
I just don't want to. I just don't want to talk over the top of everyone else. I really enjoyed it. It was very different. I kind of got the giggles while I was reading, and once I got the giggles, I couldn't stop. So I
was
apologise for that.
fantastic.
But
No, don't. It was all part of it, and it was really special. So thank you.
There we go. So
That's me. I'm done.
working too much. Speaking of someone that edits these podcasts, I also agree with that. Chris, what are you rising against?
Okay, so I think I have done several reboots now as part of Rise Against, and I found out there's another one. They're making a Willy Wonka movie, right? And they're now
ages ago.
and they're now getting close to casting. So do you want to know who they are getting close to casting
Please.
in the
Nicolas
Willy Wonka
Cage.
movie?
Nicolas Cage.
It has to be Nicolas Cage. If it's
Danny
not Nicolas-
Trejo.
Whoopi Goldberg.
These are great names. Okay, so here's the list: Ryan Gosling, Donald Glover, or Ezra Miller.
Who's
Well, those
Ezra
are
Miller?
diverse.
They're
The
very
Flash.
diverse.
Who's
the-
Ezra Miller?
The Flash and Justice League.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
Oh well.
Willy Wonka in Willy Wonka.
I'm going to go with the one that I don't recognise their name.
I'd like to see Donald Glover as Willy Wonka, actually. That would be fun.
I don't.
But I don't really want to see this film, so...
Yeah, I'm
I love-
more against the fact that this film exists. It seems very unnecessary.
Unless
Why?
it's Gene Wilder, I am not interested.
Yes.
I really like these stories though, and like reading Roald Dahl when I was younger was one of my favourite things to do. Like, I had like so many happy feels when I was a child from reading Roald Dahl books, and especially Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and The Great Glass Elevator. So I actually have never heard of this, but I think when it comes out I'm gonna go see it because I'm curious enough. I want to go and see it.
If anyone
be-
remembers those horrible red and white sweets,
Love them.
I think it should be called Childish Campino.
I think it's. Do you know what? In its to its credit, it has got Paul King that directed Paddington directing it, so it might
that could be
actually
good.
turn out to be all right.
I haven't
But
seen
you know, I've got to
Paddington.
rise against something, and therefore it's going down. I'm sorry.
As long as it's not
Okay.
Johnny Depp, I'll be happy. I don't like
Yeah.
that guy.
He had he had cool quirks that I enjoyed, but you're right, you can't ever compare them to Gene Wilder. Like, you just can't. But just don't compare them, and it's fine.
Yeah, I'll just not watch the Johnny Depp version. That'll be fine.
That one
Yeah.
though had more original music in it though, because all the songs that were in that Roald Dahl had written originally.
Yeah. So,
So
I'm not rising against Johnny Depp. That was almost a bonus one. I am rising against the human garbage that forced Kelly Marie Tran, aka Rose Tico, off Instagram because they're racist. They think they have some sort of righteous fury when it comes to fixing the Star Wars films, and they're just terrible, terrible people. So I'm rising against
what
them.
the hell happened?
Well, she apparently deleted her Instagram because like she couldn't take all the racism anymore. Valid. And you know there should be apologies for that happening to her. But anyway, and then some loser released a statement about how glad he was to be part of that movement that managed to force her off Instagram.
Okay.
That's not very nice.
No,
Who's this person?
I don't remember his name at present.
No, the person that we're talking about that got forced off Instagram.
Kelly Marie Tran. She played Rose in
Oh,
The Last Jedi.
yeah. Oh, I really like her.
Yeah, some people don't, and some people take their
I really
anger
liked
out
her.
on people. So yeah, those people.
What a load of bullshit.
Those people, screw those people. They should be eaten by velociraptors.
Disemboweled by velociraptors.
It's a pretty good rise against.
I think so. So that's that.
Racist and sexist abuse. That's outrageous. What a load of... That's...
I feel like I've righteously angered the podcast now.
Let's all go do something about it right now.
Let's all go post our support on Twitter or something. I don't know. I'm just going to... Yeah, I've said it in a public forum. I think it's disgusting. No racism on this podcast. I don't think I'll even link to it in the show notes because I don't want people even reading about it. I think it's disgusting. So that's that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said.
Thank you. So, on to the main event. A new Star Wars film came out to, it has to be said, minimal fanfare. Probably because it was out 2 weeks after Infinity War. Or a month after Infinity War. 2 weeks after Deadpool 2. Just before Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom. So it kind of sits in this weird little middle sandwich of blockbuster summer releases that I guess cause people to just not really bother about it. But it is out. It's about a young Han Solo doing all the things that a young Han Solo does. And we're here to talk about it. So, I will open up with Angus. Do you want to share your spoiler-free thoughts?
Yes, I do. I went in with low expectations based on all of the...
low expectations.
Low. All of the, lack of buzz, I suppose, about the trouble and stuff that this production went through. And I, didn't, I suppose, like a lot of other people, didn't really want to see anyone else playing Han Solo because Harrison Ford is the iconic Han Solo. So yeah, I went in, not really expecting much, and actually enjoyed it. I just, straight off the bat, had a good time watching it. I mean, there are things that I will be discussing, I suppose, once we get into spoiler territory that I didn't like as much, but overall, I found it a positive viewing experience.
Fair enough. Natalie, what did you think?
Aside from the first scene, really enjoyed it. And I can't really understand. Well, I can understand why it's not doing so well at the box office. There's a lot of things against it, but that doesn't mean it's a flop to me. I really enjoyed it as a film, and I want to go and see it again.
Cool. Chris?
I really enjoyed it. I'm in that camp as well, to be honest. Expectations were low, just like Angus said. With all the news about sort of directors leaving and reshoots and other bits and pieces, I was like, oh, it's going to sting a little bit. But actually, I think it came out quite well, to be honest. I have the feeling that the box office performance is due to it coming out so close to another Star Wars film. Whereas with all the others, there's been this sort of year-long wait and build-up and anticipation. Whereas with this, I don't think people were expecting it to be up to much. So I think the buzz for it's been very, very low. It's not been one of these, oh, you must go and see this. Whereas sort of things like Deadpool and definitely with Infinity War, it kind of had that draw of you want to see this before people spoil it for you. Whereas I don't think Solo has had that factor going for it.
Cool. My thinking is I was a bit meh on it, to be honest. I didn't dislike it. I didn't particularly like it either. It kind of had occupied this middle ground of it filled time. It was a thing that washed over me. It appeared in front of me and happened, but it didn't stir any kind of large feelings in me one way or another. I just thought it was kind of okay.
And you must be dead inside.
I didn't really have any expectations because I wasn't really following the hype, and I've probably made no secret of the fact that it's not a film I terribly wanted to see. I feel like everything I need to know about Han Solo I learn in A New Hope, and this film didn't give me anything extra that I feel I could take away from the character. So yeah, meh. That's
what it sounds like to be slowly digested over the course of 1,000 years.
Basically, yeah. That's what this film was doing to me. Yeah, so that's that. So to find out why I think that, should we do the spoiler run?
Yes.
Punch it.
Right, let's start with characters. We have a new cast of people playing familiar characters, at least in 2 cases. Everyone else is kind of new. Well, there's 3 cases, I suppose, although this Chewbacca has been playing Chewbacca for... Well, this is his 3rd appearance as Chewbacca, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, he was sharing screen time with Peter Mayhew in the other 2 appearances, but, like, he does a lot of the running around because Peter Mayhew is not so spring chickeny anymore and can't run around. So, yeah, we'll go with 2 new actors. So, what did we think of Alden Ehrenreich? A name that I finally learned how to say.
Loved him.
Okay.
Who's talking right now? Just me.
It's
You are.
you. That sound you can hear is your own voice.
Well, I wasn't sure if I'd like interrupted someone. I kind of zoned out a bit, and then I heard like and then I was like, oh yeah, this guy. I thought he was great. I really, really enjoyed him, and obviously he had huge shoes to fill, like ginormous. I think how he speaks, how he walks, how he acts. There's just a really like almost beautiful charisma that he possesses that just is so. It's just so Han Solo.
It's a fine line because it could have
Han Solo.
because he could have gone too far one way and it would have been this kind of weird
like a parody
imitation.
or something.
But yeah, I think he did pretty well, as you say, massive shoes to fill, and yeah, I guess he didn't screw it up, which is faint praise. But no, I think he was really likable, and he wasn't it wasn't too reminiscent of Harrison Ford, but it was clearly the character, and I suppose it's a bit like Ewan McGregor stepping in as Obi-Wan Kenobi, when everyone's used to Alec Guinness, and to begin with, his impression of the character was a bit kind of a tribute, but then he kind of made it his own, and I feel that Alden Ehrenreich did the same.
Cool. Chris, what did you think of Alden?
I think he did a fantastic job, to be honest. I would not envy his position of coming in and going, if he goes too similar to Harrison Ford, they'll say, oh, he's not doing his own thing, he's doing a bad impression. If he goes too far on doing his own thing, people will say, no, that's totally not Han Solo. That's not Han Solo. We know. No. So I think he played it very well, and it is meant to be the character sort of developing and becoming what we are used to, and I think he did a very good job of portraying that.
Yeah, absolutely. I really enjoyed it, and there was just a few times actually when I was so like dumbstruck with how good he was, and I guess it's just because you go in and you just have no clue of what he's going to be like, because I think everyone should go and see it. If you're a Star Wars fan, I don't understand why you wouldn't go and see it, and I know, Craig, you already mentioned that everything that you wanted to know about him you got from another film, but to be honest, the way that they tell his story, it's the story that I never knew I wanted to know, and now that I know it, I really enjoyed it. I left the cinema like just quite happy and cheesing at so much of the film. Like, what is wrong with you?
My opinion on his performance comes with a bit of a caveat. I do think that he is a fine actor, and I think he did a really good job in this. But I didn't at any point get a Han Solo vibe from him. Not once.
I definitely
Never.
did. In fact, so much so.
I had to remind myself throughout that he was supposed to be that character because he was so unlike in every way. I get that this is a prequel and he hasn't quite got into his world-wearied cynicism yet, but there should be something there that tells me. I was thinking what am I looking for here? And I was maybe looking for Zach Quinto's Spock or Chris Pine's Kirk or Carl Urban's McCoy. You know, those actors took on those roles and delivered something new while it's still clear who they're supposed to be. And I never got the impression that he was Han Solo. The flip side to that is, within 2 seconds of seeing Lando in this film, or even hearing Lando in this film, I was like, that's Lando right away. You know, there was no doubt in my mind right away. So it's weird that they did so well one side, but not so well another side.
I enjoyed Solo more than Lando.
Sacrilege.
No, but
controversial.
seriously. Because maybe it's just because, I sort of thought that Lando would be good anyway.
Yeah.
You know, so I went in and I wasn't really worried about that character.
True.
I was really impressed by Solo.
Yeah, I felt the same. I was looking forward to seeing Donald Glover as Lando.
Mm-hmm.
And it,
Doesn't mean I didn't enjoy him. I'm just saying that I was more surprised and pleasantly surprised.
yeah, and I had the same low expectations for Han. But
Han.
yeah, I enjoyed both of them.
Yeah.
I still enjoyed him. I thought he carried the film really nicely. He's a charismatic leading man. He is very funny. He bounces off the other cast really well, but still didn't feel like Han Solo.
Well, that is your problem, Craig, because we all enjoyed it.
Possibly, but still, I'm here to tell you my opinion. So therefore, I'm telling you my
Hopefully people
opinion.
listen to ours because I feel like we're better.
Right,
Just ignore the host. That's what you do.
Our opinion won't be there because Craig will edit it out later.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to do my best impression of all of you and just have, yes, I agree with that. Just over and over again.
Let's get a few clean. You're quite right, Craig.
Yeah, I agree.
Good show. Well done.
I'll dig through old podcasts. I'm sure you've agreed with me at some point. I mean, I'll find it. It'll be the longest edit job of my life, but it is important that I'm always right and that everybody agrees with me. That's what this is all about.
You make a wonderful point.
Yeah. And if not, I'll get Chris Pratt to help me. Yeah. So that was that. I mean, I don't know what he could have done to make himself more Han Solo-ish, but he wasn't doing it. It's always difficult when actors pick up iconic roles like that, and you know, if it had just been a tale about some smuggler in the Star Wars universe, I'd have probably been on board with it.
No, you would have been like, "Who's this guy? Han Solo?"
No.
Yeah,
Because I never associated this guy with Han Solo, so therefore I'd been like, that's a pretty cool smuggler
Well, you
story.
should have. It's called Solo. It's in the title.
Yeah, and if it wasn't, then I wouldn't have had any other clue otherwise. Apart from the fact he kept telling us his name.
That is shade. Serious shade.
But Donald Glover was excellent. He managed to do that thing about getting the spirit of the character right while making it his own. It's a shame he wasn't in it more often, and I think I might have been more interested in this film if it was Lando, a Star Wars story, or they could have called it the Calrissian Chronicles.
Oh, it will be. Don't you worry.
Do you know who I was surprised? Now that you're saying that you're surprised that he wasn't in it more, I'm actually really surprised how much we saw of Woody Harrelson and Thandie Newton. I had no clue that they were in this film, and then when they turned up in that sort of battle scene when they were in the trenches, I saw them and recognised them, and I thought, oh, they're going to die soon because they're obviously just making a special appearance. And then I looked at the whole scene and I thought maybe everyone is a really well-known actor in the scene. You know how they do Daniel Craig or whatever as a stormtrooper and stuff. And I thought, oh, maybe everyone here is actually a really well-known actor and this is their scene to all be in it together and say they've been in Star Wars. But then they ended up carrying so much of the story. And I was really I don't know, I was quite surprised.
Does anyone else feel weird when someone who's well established like Woody Harrelson turns up in a Star Wars movie?
It was a bit jarring to begin with.
It threw me at the beginning, yeah. Absolutely.
Same with Forrest Whitaker. It's these actors are very well established in their own right, and Star Wars has always kind of been about these, these plucky actors that they find from nowhere just coming into, make a big deal out of a film. And it kind of lifts me out a little bit because when I'm watching Woody Harrelson, I'm like, that's just Woody Harrelson. He's just playing that Woody Harrelson type guy that he always plays,
Yeah.
I thought he was good. Of course he's good. He's always good. But
Yeah.
it was still a bit off-putting because I was like, oh, it's Woody. I can't remember his name in the film.
I'm glad he wasn't just a throwaway character, though. Like, I'm glad he wasn't just a special guest appearance, because if he had been, I don't think I would have enjoyed the film as much. But because he became quite an integral character, you just have to accept that he's there and get beyond it. But if it had been the other way, though, and it was just like for 5 minutes, then I think I would have written this film off a little bit as being a massive gimmick, you know. But I thought he was used quite well, and I thought that he was a really good character, actually. I did enjoy him. I enjoyed watching him.
He was quite Woody Harrelson-y.
Yeah, but that's what we like about him, and I didn't have a problem with it, because I thought, actually, in the Star Wars universe, if that's what, I can believe that he would be like that. Like, I can believe him as a character.
I liked his hair.
I liked his hair. I liked him fine. He was good. I think they could have made more of the fact that he's supposed to be essentially the inspiration for what Han lives by later in life. You know, he didn't quite set the kind of example that I thought he was going to.
Yeah, and he kind of the way that he's a double crosser and a
triple crosser,
quadruple crosser. I don't know. I don't feel like this Han would have taken as much inspiration from this guy. Whereas if it had been someone that he'd like properly admired, or they'd been swashbuckling together for a while, and then this guy died off or whatever, or Han had to witness that, then you could see him kind of going on and living that lifestyle. But
it might just be more that he's jaded. He's been jaded by these people.
Maybe.
Like he tries really hard. Like, you see how hard he tries to get on that ship, to be taken away with them. He wants to be part of what they're all about, because he thinks that his skill set matches those, and their aspirations are the same. Like, he does look up to them, but then, like, he does become this jaded character that we then see in the later films. You can see a lot of why he thinks the way he does in later ones in this one, and that's what I really enjoyed. It was really clever.
Not in this film, he doesn't. By the end of the film, he's still like, let's go to Tatooine and like hook up with this gangster. It's going to be amazing. He's at no point does he like, life sucks. I'm just going to I'm out for myself. It's me and Chewie in the open road. That's it. No one else.
Doesn't he give away the fuel as well? So
he's too heroic. Like,
I'm misremembering, obviously.
Because in A New Hope, when he shows up at the end and saves Luke from Vader, that's like the first selfless thing he's ever done, or certainly in a long time, a
long time.
So they've almost retconned him into being a hero because the film needs him to be a hero. I think the Han Solo that we know would have been like, yeah, here's the hyperspace fuel, never bother me again, I'm going to fly off, see you later.
Well, he's young and stuff.
And at least he did learn to shoot first in this particular thing when dealing with Beckett.
You mean not at exactly the same time and move his head very quickly?
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is one of the bits where they're going, okay, he's supposed to be learning a lesson here where not to trust people, because always expect double crosses and triple crosses at this point. I mean, it's a problem with the film on overall, not just with this character relationship, but sort of trying to tick too many boxes too quickly in this character's life. I think leads everyone to go, well, at this point, is he meant to be, this is Han Solo just before he arrives at Tatooine, and you're going, no, it's not. This is meant to be way before that still. So he's still got life lessons to go, and obviously they set it up in the hope that they're going to do some more life lessons potentially, but whether they'll actually get to do them now or not is to remain unseen.
He has a really busy week, though, doesn't he? Like,
he has a very busy week.
He does the Kessel Run, he wins the Falcon, he meets Chewie.
He gets his surname. Well, that's not in the week, is it?
No,
but see, that's my bit, is that, do you know what? There's an interesting Han Solo in the trenches fighting for the Empire story in there. And I know that they want to gloss over that very conveniently and go, no, he's a hero. Just ignore the fact that he fought for the Empire for a bit. But wouldn't that have been an interesting angle, doing that and then setting him off on this story?
Yeah, I really like that. But I kind of like that they don't talk about it, though. I kind of like that they do gloss over it a little bit, because it still leaves you to wonder, if they'd explained that as well, would you not just been like, oh my gosh, like they didn't need to tell us everything. This way, there's still a wee bit of mystery retained, and you have to imagine it to be absolutely horrific or awful or brutal or whatever, because he won't even share it at this point. Like he can't even share it, and I think this is something that they probably use as major fuel for his character for later.
I don't know.
Something that just festers inside, and if they'd explained that, there wouldn't be anything left.
Can we not just have an extended part of the film where he's a hotshot, reckless Imperial pilot? I wanted to see him fly a TIE fighter.
That would be absolutely mental.
It would. So, so when he was in the infantry, I was like, why is he in the infantry? He's a pilot. We need to see more of him as a pilot.
Sort of an Empire take on Top Gun.
Yeah. It's like, you're too reckless. And it's like, no, I get results. And eventually just get kicked out.
I did like the being part of the Empire Army or Navy or whatever he was in. And I agree that I think they could have used more of that stuff and had more of that side of his origin.
Mm-hmm. Like if they'd focused on that over something else.
Yeah, they were rushing through stuff, basically.
I agree with Chris that they kind of ticked a few too many boxes in this, but I think you have to accept that's what you're going to get with a lot of these. Everything. I mean, yeah, some of the fan service stuff did make me smile or laugh out loud or whatever, but
like
it's just. Yeah, but
that's not very nice.
You appreciate it. You appreciate some of it, but when you know that some of it's coming as well, like if there's a throwaway reference to Bosk, I'm gonna like that. But if they have to tick off so many of the things that were mentioned in previous films, all in one go, it just is a bit too forced. I think
it becomes a bit like Rogue One.
No pun intended. That's not how the Force works.
I didn't hear you. I was laughing at my own joke. Sorry.
So the origin thing, I think they could have just spent more time building. Those 3 years later jump. It just annoyed me because there's a story to be told in those 3 years. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, if you want to see a story about a pilot who doesn't like following rules, then you should show him as a pilot who doesn't follow rules.
Well, maybe they will. Maybe this was like a test, like a test board of like, what do people respond to well, what do they, and then from there, if everyone's saying, oh, I really want to see what this would be like if it was just focusing on him as a soldier, other people might be like, oh, I want to see what happens next. Maybe it's just, all designed to let the people know what they should focus on next. A tasting board.
Is there a word for a prequel in the middle of a film?
Don't know. Maybe.
Following is set between. Yeah. God, can't resolve this now. So now in my Star Wars rewatch, I have to watch the first 20 minutes of Solo, then take the disc out and put the second.
put the middle film in, and
then
get the next one in.
Yeah.
Oh God. It's just going to get all kinds of messy.
Yeah, well, it's probably whatever's going to make the money,
Well, clearly not this film, apparently.
Yeah, but that's obviously not because it's not a good movie. It's because somebody who was in control of getting it released and putting it up against those other films was stupid.
I think it's mistimed.
It's like, it's like what Chris said, having it so close to another Star Wars film, not letting somebody, get really hungry for it, and choosing to release it in such a dense couple of weeks of massive films being released. Like, we've talked about this before, Craig, some people don't go to the cinema that often, and if they're going to choose a film, they might have just chosen to see Infinity War. Do you know what I mean? It didn't have a hope.
Yeah,
a new hope.
It didn't have a new hope. Yeah.
And there's always the possibility that the Han Solo prequel is just a story that average audiences aren't all that interested in as well. It's great, like you mentioned, with the references to Bosk and all this kind of fan service, but at the end of the day, is fan service really that important to a wider cinema audience? The thing about Force Awakens is you can jump into it and and get behind these new people, and Last Jedi follows on from that. But maybe this, and Rogue One is an entirely self-contained little thing. So maybe this is just like, maybe no one really wants to see that prequel. I'm not saying no one, but I'm talking in your broad average Joe cinema goer type thing. Maybe they just aren't bothered about the Kessel Run or all this stuff.
Yeah, and if they're going to do these, which they are, spin-offs and prequels and origin stories and things, then some of them are going to be hits. Some of them are going to be like this.
Yeah.
They can't all be the breaking box office records and things. And I suppose, as far as Disney's concerned, as long as they're making some money.
But didn't this lose money because it wasn't just when they've chosen to release it, so about numbers and stuff of who went to see it, but the production costs were huge because didn't they reshoot like a whole massive chunk of the film?
Oh, they changed directors, some of the film had been done, and...
So, I read something recently, and it was like, they spent a substantial figure on reshooting and redoing a lot of it that they shouldn't have done. Like, they probably didn't need to do, and just sounds like it would just spiral out of control. Yeah, and it's not fair. It's not fair on the story, it's not fair on the actors now who are going to be told that they're in like Star Wars only flop. It's not fair. It's a better film than that, and it deserved more. It deserved more credit.
I will say that this doesn't feel like a film that's been stitched together from reshoots and things like that. Whereas Rogue One certainly does to an extent. There is one part of this film that a figure appears as part of the reshoots. I know that every scene that Paul Bettany's in is reshot, because it was supposed to be some guy in The Wire playing a bear or something like that.
A bear
type. Yeah, like some. I don't know. I can't remember the exact animal that his species is based on, but he's he's an animal of some sort. But so Paul Bettany stepped in after all that, and he just became a guy with scratches on his face, which is fine. Like, I thought Paul Bettany was great, but since they shot all that material separately, it doesn't feel like it's in a different film. But there is one part that I do feel is a bit tacked on, and I think it's Woody Harrelson's relationship with Tandy Newton.
Oh, that's really weird, isn't it?
When she dies, he doesn't seem to care. After that point, he's not bothered. And even when Paul Bettany says, "Sorry to hear about whatever her name is," and he's just like, "Thanks," and then it's nothing else. So I wonder if, like, in an earlier version of the film, they were just partners instead of like lovers or whatever they were supposed to be.
She very readily kills herself in that. I was really confused.
Yeah,
that's the one bit where I was like, I don't really get why you've done that. Like, she just gives up and then blows the bridge up, and he's all like, "Oh my god!" But it was really.
But he does get over it quite quickly.
He does.
Well, yeah,
that's the only part I feel stitched in.
No, because that made me think though. Like, he is probably that kind of character though that gets away with loads of stuff, and he's probably had loads of partners that have all ended up dying, and he's always been the one that's escaped. So I just thought maybe he's not that bothered because this is maybe the 10th person that he's had working by him, and he's getting used to the fact that it's a really tricky business. I just viewed it a bit like that, but she is very keen to blow herself up on the bridge.
I did think that there was definitely other options for her at that point. It seemed like, everyone in Star Wars has normally got some form of grapple hook or
sort of
thing. She used it earlier on. And you're sort of thinking there must have been other options other than her. No, I'm just going to blow myself up right now. And then that was it.
Maybe she just wanted to out. Do you know what I mean? Maybe she just was like,
she's faked her death. It's like, no, we've got time. We'll circle around and get you. It's like, no time. I'm going to blow myself up. I've
got to go now. I'm not retiring with you to watch you learn to play your space banjo or whatever he was threatening to retire and play.
I'm sick of your stupid music. I'm going to die.
Guaranteed she shows up in a later film with robot legs.
Probably, yeah. So that is the only part that I felt was stitched in. Everything else felt like it was cohesive and part of the same narrative. So I'll give it that. I think Ron Howard did a good job of piecing together footage that was already there and creating his own and building something that was, felt like it was a whole, because the thing is, even if the relationship side of things was stitched on just to make it look like there's a bit more pathos attached to that, then you have loads of films where, like, characters don't seem to care about death. the death of someone they've worked with for years or whatever. So you can kind of get past that in a way, but it does get glossed over far too quickly. You could sort of cut that tender moment between them, and the film would be better for it, I think.
Craig, why did the director change?
Because apparently Disney didn't want ad-libby comedy after realising that they'd hired directors that are famous for ad-lib comedy. So they fired those two directors. I don't know how true this is. I'm only parroting what was reported. And then they hired Ron Howard because I guess he's a bit more of what they want from a Star Wars director, or what Kathleen Kennedy wants from a Star Wars director.
But then I heard an interview with him, and he seemed to say that they still had sort of a bit of ad-libbing and improvisation going on set.
Well, they are going to say that.
Phoebe Waller-Bridge apparently improvised a lot of the L3 lines and other bits and pieces.
I don't know. I don't work at Lucasfilm, so... And even if I did...
Yeah, but I always feel like you know. That's why I asked you. I always feel like you have...
I just like to pretend that I know. That's what it is.
What do you think the chances are that Clint Howard was involved before Ron Howard got into it?
It's a good question.
I think probably quite low.
And now he's been in Star Wars and Star Trek in live action. So there we go. Technically,
That's a fun fact.
Technically, George Takei is the first person to cross over from Star Wars to Star Trek, or Star Trek to Star Wars.
Ooh.
Yeah. He voiced a Neimoidian in the Clone Wars cartoon.
Have there been a few?
There have been now, I think. I think there has been a few now. I mean,
probably because both worlds are massive.
Just how big these franchises are, there's going to be movement. You know, actors are going to show up in more and more of them. Yeah. Chris, it's interesting you bring up L3. Least favourite character. Did not like. Irritated the hell out of me.
I liked elements of L3, but I think her story was kind of made into a humour piece, where if you frame it slightly differently, it's more of a horror theme to it. So the character is meant to be all for robot rights, wanting its freedom, wanting other robots to be free against restraining bolts. And then the final thing that is done to this character is its brain is disassembled and thrown into servitude inside the Millennium Falcon forever. So you kind of go, oh, that's what happened to that character. Okay, we'll move along.
It's a really long-winded way of explaining why the Millennium Falcon's computers has a peculiar dialect.
I think that's just a side bit to it. I hope that isn't what they set out with for the whole time. It's like, well, C-3PO said this thing about the Millennium Falcon once, and we've now got to explain it. I thought there was elements of the character that was quite funny. I liked the fact that she was sort of pining after Lando. I thought that was quite funny. I liked the way that worked between the pair of them. But yeah, I'm with you. It didn't fully drive home for me.
I do think it's funny that entertainment in the Star Wars universe is apparently watching two refrigerators duke it out. That's apparently what passes for fun in Star Wars.
Robo wrestling.
Robo wrestling. It's not even as elegant as Robot Wars, that show that you may or may not be aware of in different regions. If you're a listener.
Sir Kilowatt cameo would have been great, though.
A Sir Kilowatt cameo. That would have been. I did kind of like the line of "They don't even serve our kind here," which I thought was quite funny. It made me chuckle a little bit.
Yeah. L3, other guys, what do you think?
Didn't like it as much. I do enjoy, that they're trying to carry on the theme of having interesting droid characters, because obviously R2 and 3PO were such big parts of the original films. But I think K2SO was probably a better character from Rogue One, and did that whole kind of sarcastic robot better than L3. And
K2 was good, yeah.
I also agree that they needed a massive shoehorn to get L3 into the Falcon's computer, and yeah, I don't know. I could have done without that, but I think I didn't have any problem with the with the relationship with Lando stuff, and for some reason there seemed to be more uproar about the whole pansexuality thing, but I didn't even really see it as, I mean, it was more of a sort of played for laughs sort of thing, wasn't it? I mean, their whole are they, aren't they, you know, who feels what for who relationship.
Yeah, although it's funny how the two female characters, you know, we'll say that L3 is female because she has a female voice. The only scene they share together is them sitting talking about men. You know, that's the Bechdel test failed right there.
Oh yeah, because she asks them something.
Yeah. So it is what it is. But I wasn't a fan of that character.
When we first meet the droid, I was a bit like, I thought it was Tilda Swinton, so I was like, oh cool. And then because I thought it was her, I just believed it was her. And so for a while I was like, alright, cool, this character's alright. And I thought she was like this mad feminist and like fighting for all these rights and stuff. But then they just did it too much and they gave her too much time. Like when they were focusing on her storyline, I would rather have been finding out what was going on in the rest of the universe.
It does seem that it's one of these tick box things that they've got to do in a Star Wars film now, where it's like, right, we need the sort of sassy droid to be in this. And like you said, I think K2SO was sort of the best one that we've seen recently, sort of fill that void, and did it so well that seeing another one in this film, you're going, nah, but you're not quite as good. And I think that's what sort of takes away from it a bit.
But I don't think they should stop doing it though. Like I do quite like seeing all the sorts of different kinds and things that they've got. So, you know, it's just another variation of it. I wasn't that fussed.
Well, it was trying something new. Yeah, it's just that new thing didn't really work for me. But I do appreciate the attempt, if nothing else. You know.
Well done. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Just wait for the IG-88 spin-off movie if you want to see a different take on a droid.
Gonk Droid, a Star Wars story. Someone mentioned relationships there, so it's a good time as any to talk about kind of the beginnings of iconic relationships. So I'll start with Han and Lando. I got the impression that they had met more than twice before the events of Empire Strikes Back. You know, because in this film they meet when the first game of Sabacc, where Han loses, which I thought was a nice subversion of the expectation, having him lose the first one, because that's where it's like, oh, here we go, here's the Falcon getting one. Oh, no, it's not. And then they meet later when he does actually win the Falcon, and then we're led to believe never sees him again until Empire Strikes Back. I don't know, did anyone else get the impression that they'd done a bit of work together for over the years?
I think they've met again since that table. You definitely get the impression that they've been friends for a while, not just we did that one thing once and then never saw each other again. I mean, he definitely has a better relationship with sort of Chewie, and there's that expectation when they turn up in Empire that they're going to be, you know, greeted like long lost friends, not like, oh, I totally remember you. You know, yes, come and hide in my city, sort of thing. Because you get a bigger sense of betrayal as well.
He's the first person who has beaten him, though. You know, played him at his own game, beaten him, taken a ship. But yeah, I think they do it on purpose, though. You know, that whole "I'm never going to see you again, I hate you," because then you're like, well, we know that they do hang out, and we know what the relationship is at that point that they do hang out again. So again, they leave something to the imagination. You're left to think about how they're feeling in that moment and to ponder what else they've done, you know? Might be covered in future films if they ever do.
I think Lando would definitely end up tied into some sort of weird, wacky scheme and would turn up in another film. I think definitely Donald Glover's performance in this was really, really good, and you definitely want to see more of him. I don't particularly want to see Lando, a Star Wars story, be the next spin. I don't know, you know, if there is a film to be had here, I wouldn't like it to focus on just one character and go, right, it's going to be the ... movie. It's like, let's have it as like a little standalone type thing, I think. another heist movie, but sort of tie them all in together.
I think with Lando, though, you know a lot less about him than you do about Han, based on the original trilogy. When you meet him at Cloud City, you know that about him. You don't learn much else. So, like, there is more freedom there to tell a different story. He's effectively a blank slate. I mean, you know what the kind of baseline personality is, but other than that, I would, like I said, that's the film I'd rather have seen.
Do you really want to go back to Lando Origins? I mean, I think they could have done that if they hadn't done
this.
I think if they hadn't done Solo first, I think you would have been all right. I think now, if you then go back and go, okay, we're now going to do Lando Origins, you're going to struggle a bit. Now, you might have something tying him into sort of how he ended up, mayor of a cloud city or something. You can maybe end up following on that with flashbacks or something, which they're likely looking at. I mean, we've got the Boba Fett one to come still, so he might even turn up in that.
Is
Who
there
knows?
a Boba Fett solo film?
Yep.
Yeah.
Supposedly directed by the
these?
Logan director.
Why are they doing all these?
Dollar.
Like, what are they trying to prove, though? Like, I kind of, like, I've got my Cineworld pass, throwing that out there, so if I had time, maybe I'll go and check it out, but if they're just going to start churning out all these character stories, don't care. It's enough for them to be in the film as, like, this character. I'm not gonna. Why do I want to see them in their own film?
Well, maybe the performance of this film will cause them to change tack a bit and think a bit more about what they're going to do with these side films, because these solo films, side ventures, not tremendously interesting because. Well, when you look at this film, you've got three characters, Han, Chewie and Lando, and you know that they can't be in any real danger because they all survive, unless they were going to reveal that this is actually Lando's twin brother, Nando Calrissian, who gets killed, which, of course...
Nando Calrissian.
Nando Calrissian.
He goes off to form a chicken restaurant.
He runs a fast food joint somewhere on Tatooine. I don't know.
Yeah, freshly fried porg.
Peri Peri Womp Rat.
That's it, yeah. Well, they did talk about Minoc roasts at some point during this film, so...
God, yes.
So there's that. Angus, what did you think of the relationship between Han and Lando? Do you think they never see each other again, or whatever?
I think there's no way that you could see the end of this film and then see Empire and expect that kind of reaction from Lando. So I would have liked to have seen, or I don't expect we will see more of them teaming up, because I think it would be good to see at least the three of them pull some jobs together.
Yeah.
Because you get, like you've said, you get the impression that they were friends, or that they, went on some heists together, got into some scrapes. So I'd prefer to have seen, because I like the way they start out as rivals, and then I would like to see them kind of begrudgingly respect each other, become friends, and then maybe fall out, and that's what happened.
Over a girl.
That kind of leads into the Cloud City meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like there's more there. There should be more there. It shouldn't just be, well, you've got my ship, I'll see you in like 20 years. Or however long it is. The timeline is kind of sketchy, but it's a bit disjointed, I suppose. What do we think of Kira? I think that she is problematic because her role changes from scene to scene. So, you think she's an idealistic romantic, and then she's kind of someone who's been put upon by circumstance, so she's like part of this syndicate she doesn't want to be a part of, and then she's a willing participant who's like badass, and then she's like a femme fatale. It just depends. Every scene she's like
Well,
different.
I think she's supposed to be an enigma, though, like she's supposed to be this adaptable character that has to, change how she is to fit her circumstance, or she has to forever be adapting, I think, to fit in. I was surprised by her character change throughout the film, though, and I have to be honest, I didn't like the first scene with her. Like, the opening scene of the film I thought was really cheesy and a bit trash, and I thought it was setting us up for a massive crap film, but after the first scene with her, it gets way better. But yeah, it's like she really is. I don't know. I can't make up my mind whether or not she was flawed or not. I feel like if she was there to adapt and change to her environment, then she did that well. But there's no real truth to her.
Yeah, I feel like there's adaptable, and then there's, all right, in this scene she needs to do this. I never felt like there was any kind of baseline for her, so I never knew what I felt like I should be expecting from her. So every time she makes a decision and does something, I'm like, that might be her. I don't know, because
what's the true nature of her?
Yeah, like, what is she supposed to be? And I'm kind of glad they didn't kill her though, because I saw that coming. I felt to myself, right, she's going to die, and that's going to make Han never trust anyone ever again, or whatever, But I'm glad they didn't kill her.
I feel like we see her true self at the end when she goes with Maul, because she's given opportunities like loads of time to not choose the dark side or to go with the bad guys, and she chooses that herself at the end because she's in a position where she can go and lead a different life, and she chooses the one that's associated with all the evil guys.
Yeah, but I don't understand why she decides to leave Han behind.
Well, because that's her making her decision. She's an evil character. The whole time you're not sure whether it is. And that's when she makes the decision to join the dark side.
I think she knows that Han could never commit to that kind of life, and makes a decision on his behalf almost, and goes, right, well, I'm off to be evil. I know you wouldn't be able to stick at it, so see you later. You see there's a little bit, sort of the conflicted decision as to whether she's going to dial up and say, right, he's dead, I'm taking his place, right, we're off, kind of thing. You can see there's a bit of conflict there, but I'm with you, Craig, that you never really establish a baseline for her, where you're either surprised at her decision or you're expecting it. You're kind of in this no man's land territory.
Yeah. Angus, thoughts on Kira?
I didn't really like her. And I don't think it's anything against Emilia Clarke. I think she's a good actor, but I just think the character was not great, was a bit meh, and also suffers from that kind of, like you mentioned before, we know what happens to some of these characters. So when you see the whole kind of setup of Kira and Han being this romantic couple at the beginning, it's not going to end well. So she was either going to die or she was going to turn against him. So there was that hanging over it the whole time, and you knew that something like that was going to happen. So yeah, it was just a bit, I don't know, she was a bit of a non-character for me. And I agree with what you've said as well about her different kind of motivations from scene to scene, and yeah, I think she was one of the weakest parts of the film for me.
It's funny how Emilia Clarke is problematic in big franchise stuff. Terminator. She didn't suck. I mean, her character did, but that film was dreadful on every conceivable level. And she's not so great here either. Because of how she's written, though, I think if she was given a better character, I feel like she could probably act a bit better. I'm basing this on nothing. I've never watched Game of Thrones. I've seen her in one film other than the two I mentioned, which is, I forget the name right now, but it's one where she plays like this carer/girlfriend to a guy who's in a wheelchair.
What's that called? It was based on a book.
Sam
Professor
Claflin
X
was in
Origins.
X-Men Origins, Xavier. I can't remember what it was called.
Please don't die, something like that. All those films are called that, though, aren't they? Please don't die.
Oh God.
I'm in a wheelchair. Look after me until I die. Hold a fun funeral. We've all got things like that.
Please don't die. Just what a great title. You know what you're getting, I suppose. Me Before You, that was it.
Pretty much. See, it's the same.
I saw that and I thought she was okay in that. I mean, I thought the film itself was kind of alright as well, but yeah. Anyway, that's not.
I thought she was terrible as an actress in the opening scene. I just was like, it was like a practice scene that they'd done, and I couldn't believe it had made the final cut, not let alone the opening clip.
Well, that scene as well, it's really clunky because it's like, hey Kira, look what I managed to get. It's this stuff that we can sell for a lot of money on the black market, but you already know this, so why am I telling you that? And she's like, yes, and then we can leave this planet, and then we can buy a ship and fly off into the sunset and do our own thing. It's like, okay, there's got to be easier ways to get your motivations across without just telling us, you know.
It's what we've always dreamed of.
Yeah, it was good. Think of how long it took them to tell us that and how long it would have taken otherwise.
Well, there's other ways you could do it. I mean, you can tell by the way they're running around that they don't want to be there, for example. So you can almost do that without dialogue. And, you know, you could do that in essentially one line. And Han, all Han has to say is, look at this, it's our ticket out of here. And then you're just like, all right, cool. We're going to use that to get off planet somehow. Fine. And you move on. But instead of all this clunky dialogue, there was a lot of clunky dialogue throughout the film, I thought, actually, where they were just explaining things. You know, no one's done the Picasso run in less than 20 parsecs.
I did kind of like the way that they managed to write around the fact that they got confused about time and distance when they did the original. So I've got to give them credit for that.
I like the interpretation that Han is just sizing up Obi-Wan and Luke to see if they're like, if they know what they're talking about. You know, because Obi-Wan kind of rolls his eyes in that scene. You know, it's like, oh my God, what's he talking about?
But you know, I just kind of like that they managed to find a way to change it round. But it doesn't seem like it would be a very famous thing to have happened.
No,
you know, the way it's said in the original thing is like, do you not recognise the ship? It's the one that did this, and it's like everyone's like, what's that thing? Like, oh, that planet. Like, we don't even know that planet exists. What did? Oh, you did it in that distance. Oh, that's neat, I suppose.
And what did they do really? They flew into like some clouds that were inside a nebula, and then almost got killed by a giant space kraken. And yeah, I actually felt really sorry for Lando in that sequence, because it's like, I'm letting you fly my ship and you've like wrecked it within minutes of getting behind the joystick. It's just it's a mess. My cannon's fallen off. I've lost a radar dish. My escape pod's gone. Half the hull has been ripped off. It's just.
Yeah, but he earned his money through cheating, so that ship was probably acquired through cheating as well, so...
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that's still attached to that ship in the end is the tracking beacon. Everything else has been ripped off it. The only thing that's still attached is the blinking light that's telling everyone where they are.
Yeah, how did that stay on? Massive gravity well that's pulling the hull off the ship, and it's... the tracking device, that's alright. It's hanging on the outside. It's pretty secure.
There's Gorilla Glue that's on that thing. It's not going anywhere.
I will say, though, I did like that sequence. It was probably the most exciting part of the film for me. It was cool seeing some fancy piloting, and some of the banter was good fun. You know, Chewie's 194 years old. And
96.
Sorry.
Just saying.
That kind of stuff. I thought the banter was quite fun, and although there was a bit of almost a bit of Star Trek about it, and you know, I don't want to use that as an insulting term, but it was what if we chuck in this MacGuffin stuff into the engine? It will give us the boost we need to escape, you know, and
let's eject the core.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, how's that going to? Yeah. Let's eject the fusion reactor. It's like that's not going to help.
No, let's not. It'll switch off the engines. Too late. I've hit the button.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was a fun sequence. Giant space squid aside, I feel like if you've got a gravity well and a space squid, you don't need both. One will do.
Yeah, you could have had escape from the space squid and you'd have been all right. Though the skin getting ripped off the face of massive space squid.
That was harsh.
That what a way to go.
People are just really mean to squids in general.
Yeah.
Space or otherwise.
Yeah, especially big massive ones. It was huge though.
It was.
It was so huge.
Big squid.
And then destroyed.
It seemed like quite a stupid large animal as well, because You think it's pretty native to that area, so it probably knows about the gravity well and to stay away from it.
It's probably the only one that's left.
Yeah, but one small ship flies in.
It's probably only so massive because it's been fighting against gravity its whole life, and it's just stretched it to be absolutely massive.
Are ships edible? Do massive space squid go, that looks tasty?
No, but it's probably like when you give a cat like a toy made of feathers, it tries eating it anyway.
Yeah.
And now that makes its death feel really tragic. You know, it's like a kitten chasing a ball of wool and then falling down a manhole. That's a bit like
Yeah.
Not just falling down a manhole, but having all of its skin ripped off and falling down a manhole.
Guys, stop it.
That's rough.
Peace out, Space Squid.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a cool sequence. I
Never
like that.
forget.
Yeah, never forget the Space Squid.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
Hashtag Space Squid Lives Matter.
That's too far, Chris. You're normally cool, not anymore.
Normally cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was a fun sequence. I also liked the train robbery. I thought it was really well done.
Did not like that.
You didn't like that bit? I like that bit.
I don't know. I kind of, honestly, the further we go with podcasts of films, the more I feel like I hated the film. Because I get really bored and I question everything that I've thought when I first seen it, and I don't know people's names, and then when I have to Google it, it just takes me out of the
yes,
mind.
let the hate flow through you.
That's it. That's what podcasting does. Convinces you that your favourite film is your least favourite film.
Yeah, I know, and I'm really confused now. It's like, just wanted to be honest with you.
The shootout in the throne room kind of place, that was a bit effy.
Guess what?
What?
I've just thought of a Rise Against.
Well, save it for next time.
No, I really want to say it now. Can I say it now? It's Star Wars related. In fact, it's Solo related. It's pretty much... Okay. Do you know that car advert that they played at the beginning? That is legit the worst car advert
Surprise!
I've ever seen in my life.
It is terrible.
And if we are going to blame anything for the failure of this film, I think it should be that advert. Because it is the shit. Please don't edit that out because people need to hear it. It is the worst advert I've seen in such a long time. In fact, do you know like when you watch The Apprentice and then they have to do adverts? Last year they did it on cars. Their car adverts were better than this one.
Though Renault Kadjar does sound like a sort of Star Wars villain name. It would have been better than Tobias Beckett, wouldn't it?
Should be a
Renault Kadjar sounds like a more Star Warsy name.
But the whole advert, I was like, I can't believe Star Wars let them use their characters to advertise this piece of shit acting that they have. And I was like, oh, honestly, I almost walked out of the cinema when I saw that.
Before the film even started.
I was like, no, if this is what kind of shit this film is attached to, I don't want to see it.
You've really tested my bank of Star Wars sound effects here.
I know. Thankfully, the film was good, but that advert, gosh, right, so we went to see Jurassic World, whatever, the other day, yesterday, and that advert came on again, and I'd almost forgotten how awful it was. So that and this new diabetes lotto advert are the two worst adverts I've ever seen in my life in the last week. What is going on? Because I don't dig it.
You're listening to the advertising podcast.
Jeez, let's have one. But like, honestly...
As a side note...
But you guys know what I'm talking about though, right?
Oh, yeah. As a side note to the advertising podcast, there's a very good comedy skit out there from a guy called John Finnemore on I think it was a Radio 4 programme that he did it on, where it is two marketing executives arguing over who's promoting what. So it's the fast food chain wanting toys from a particular film, and they can't decide whether the film is getting promotion from them and should be paying the fast food restaurant to promote their film, and the fast food restaurant isn't sure if they should be paying the film in order to promote their fast food restaurant.
I can imagine that this really happens. You know, it's
Probably.
just...
But that advert does try to convince me that this car is better than the Millennium Falcon, which just isn't going to be the case.
I
mean, does a Renault car, will it have a cape armoire in the back? No, it will not.
So many capes.
I am no. It's just absolute trash. The woman is a trash hole. That kid is a trash hole. The car is a trash hole.
God.
Everyone's a trash hole.
To the Sarlacc pit with him.
To that, yeah.
And now it's time to bring you this week's sponsor, which is the new Renault Kadjar.
Please make this a hashtag, because if anyone is searching for that, they need to go.
When you press the accelerator, it's like going into hyperspace.
Jesus. And then they walk up at that, like, the premiere of the film. It's just like, surprise! Like, no. Honestly, the Apprentice people can do better than this, and that is really saying something, because they're shit.
Honda, the power of dreams.
So back to the film. Do you think when Han won the Falcon from Lando, they let him clear out all his capes before flying off?
No.
No chance. It was contents and all.
Yeah. Sold as scene.
But what use does he have for capes?
Turn them into cushion covers.
Put out fires.
Crafting with Han.
He puts out fires. Does big art attacks with them.
Oh, can somebody do that? That'd be really good.
Who knows? Anything. Yeah.
Big art attack of the clones.
Oh. I think we found the title of the podcast.
That was terrible. You mean the title's not going to be Renault Kadjar?
No.
You're
it
right.
sounds
No one would search for that because no one wants to buy it.
Wow, harsh.
Just saying, it's true.
So action sequences, so there was two memorable ones, but I did like the fact that this film has a lot lower stakes than pretty much any other Star Wars film. You know, there's no fate of the galaxy hanging in the balance at any point. Although Han does almost fund the rebellion.
Yeah, didn't really like that.
Yeah, which is like, nah.
I like the trench warfare stuff.
All 2 minutes of it.
Yeah, could have had more, but
where Han doesn't shoot a single person.
That was a Star War that we were observing there, which was quite good.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would have liked to see more of that. Just an Imperial campaign. You don't even know where they were or why they were there as well, and why was Han against it?
I think he would just be against anything that someone in a position of authority was telling him to do.
That's true. It's possibly true. But lower stakes, I think if they're going to keep this side venture experiment running, then you can't have the entire galaxy be at stake and this big operatic story that flows through every character. You can't keep having that because it's boring after a while. So it is much better to have this. Here's just a guy flying around the galaxy doing stuff. That's much better. And, leaving the Force out of it. I know there is one point where the Force does appear, and there is a lightsaber, sort of. But
why does he ignite the lightsaber?
Because, I don't know. Just
look at this.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
I like that it was, we're going to have no Jedi and no Sith. No Jedi, no Sith. Okay, sod it, we're going to put one in at the end. Okay, go.
Technically, that's true. Maul is not a Sith at that point.
Yep.
Here we go in exposition backstory corner. I had an issue with the Darth Maul cameo, or he's just Maul, he's not Darth anymore, because I already know how that story ends, unless they're planning to decanonize Rebels, which I hope they don't, because they did wrap that up very nicely. But for those that don't know, Maul was, I'm not going to say resurrected, he never died in the first place. After the events of the Phantom Menace, he slinked off to a planet and he had robot spider legs and he was eating rats and stuff, or whatever the Star Wars equivalent of rats are. Then eventually he comes back with his robot legs and takes over some crime syndicates, just generally cuts about the galaxy being angry, and then eventually he gets to the point where he confronts Obi-Wan again and dies in Rebels. So,
spoiler alert.
Yeah, well, full spoilers for Rebels, whatever. Which a low percentage of the audience will have watched for this film. So, what do you think they're planning to do with Maul, considering they've told this story in other mediums?
I think they've brought him in as a potentially a usable thing for any sequel follow-up-y bit to this. I mean, they hint that, okay, he's going over to Tatooine, he's going to work for, we presume, Jabba the Hutt, doing a mission, a thing, a heist, a whatever. So, yeah, maybe running interference in the background or just in it. I thought it was a very weird cameo to put in, and I've heard the director talking about the fact that they had a list of people it was going to be, and potentially it was going to be Jabba. Potentially it was going to be just another alien. They were just going to like create some random thing and put it up on screen.
Well, Jabba would have made sense.
It would have done, but I mean, maybe the view screen wasn't big enough for Jabba. but yeah, they sort of had a list apparently, and then they ended up on Maul because apparently they were like, well, in the timeline it fits, and he's still alive in Rebels, so we can use him, kind of thing.
Yeah,
should have been evil Ben Quadraneris.
Oh God! But this does make me worry about the potential Obi-Wan spin-off movie, which will probably end with a 20-minute lightsaber fight with Maul in the desert, and therefore decanonize one of the things that we're very careful about keeping canonized. I feel very strongly about this because I love Rebels. I think it's a really good show, and I think they made good use of Maul as a character, and they resolved it very, very well. So if they're going to go and screw this up with mediocre side films, then I'm not for that.
Probably the fundamental problem with all of these side movies where it's characters that their ultimate fate, because how much fun can it be when you know exactly what happens to them in the end anyway? Yeah.
Well, average Joe audience member won't understand where Maul's headed, because unless they've watched Rebels, which will be a small part of the audience, they won't
I'm
know.
the common audience then, because I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not going to watch it, so... Also,
if you've seen the prequels and you see Maul get cut in half in Phantom Menace, you're going to be like, why is he here? He's dead.
Is this a spoiler alert?
Exactly what I was going to say there was, if you're sort of the average cinema goer, you're not going to go into this going, oh, well, I totally expected him to still be alive. Yeah. I mean, that was like, yeah, he's been taken out and he's gone and he's dead. And I do like the fact that a lot of people have come out of this with the confusion of, so where does this take place? So this is before the prequels then? How old is Han Solo?
No, because he's got fake legs.
Yeah, but...
Yeah, well, he's got robot legs now, but if you don't notice the robot legs...
I noticed the robot legs. I said to Gus...
Chris is explaining what certain cinema goers would be, thinking, wait, that's the guy from... Episode
is that
1,
the guy
but
from
he's not
the thing?
Dead, so...
No, because I said, right, I don't really remember the first couple that came out, the first 3. I don't really know them that well. So I said to Gus, I was like, whoa, did you see when he stood up, he's got fake metal legs? And Gus was like, what, did he? That means, oh my god, this means it's in this timeline, blah, 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 blah. I was like, legit don't know. All I know is that he's got fake legs.
Technically, the first thing you see is his robot legs. You don't see
Gus didn't observe it, but I did.
You see the metal legs before you see anything else.
I was too distracted by his weird CGI face.
See, so Gus didn't observe that, and he's the one that's probably going to know the story more than I do. Well, he does know the story more than I do. So take that, every other person who's not the average cinema goer.
I did like that they got Sam Witwer to do his voice. He did his voice in the animated stuff, and he's very good at it. But I was confused by the cameo because I really don't want them to decanonize a really good Star Wars show. They've already taken enough from Star Wars fans with the Disney regime, with binning all the expanded universe. Not that I'm forcing anyone off Instagram for it, and I actually don't really care that they've gotten rid of the expanded universe because I wasn't deeply into it as such, but the thing about Rebels is I did get invested in it, and I liked Clone Wars as well, so if you're going to stick to what is canon, then stick to what's canon, rather than not. Let's not have Maul's story rewritten when you don't have to.
It does seem like a weird thing for them to pick up and do, rather than just either creating an interesting character that they can do whatever they want with at that point. because they've got no fixed start or end points. You can just create a backstory that you want, rather than going into the box and pulling out a character that's already there. It just seemed a bit unnecessary to me. It didn't seem like a big payoff that people were like, oh, there's a surprise cameo at the end, and it just seemed a bit unnecessary.
Yeah, I don't really have much else to say on Maul other than why. So that's it. I do like Maul though. He's the coolest thing about the Phantom Menace, and he says almost nothing. So that's that. The lightsaber he uses is the same one he has in Rebels as well. So, someone's watching, someone's paying attention to the side stuff.
I liked the Han and Chewie introduction.
Yes.
That wasn't done in a way that I was expecting. I was expecting Chewie almost to come with the Falcon at some point, but the introduction of it being, we'll feed him to the beast. And at that point, I was expecting some massive sort of space worm thing, or, the usual styly monster.
As soon as I said beast, I'll be like, this will be Chewie.
I wasn't expecting it, but then I was like, do you know what? If you were going to introduce them, now would be quite a good point, and they did it, and I thought it paid off. I really, really liked that sort of scene.
I knew it was coming, and from when he's shrouded in darkness, and the whatever cave he's in, the echoes are sort of distorting his growls enough that you're like, oh, it's not the familiar Chewbacca yell, but it was pretty obvious what was coming, I think.
As a purveyor of the expanded universe, do you know anything about how they're supposed to have met in that, like the depiction of it there?
Was it in a shower?
I don't know. Because I genuinely don't. But
I don't know. I just know that about the life debt.
Yeah, there's something about. I remember hearing about that somewhere. Yeah.
No, I don't know the origins.
No, it was a good meeting, and I really enjoyed Han's attempt to speak Wookiee, where he wasn't able to articulate it very well.
And then would never try again in any future film.
Yeah, we do Big Pretend or something like that. The just kind of the really disjointed, terrible translation.
Broken Wookiee.
He can understand it very well though, so that's good, or at least for the most part. And one of the things I'll applaud the film for is how they came up with the nickname thing. Where he says, I'm going to need to find a nickname for you. And I was expecting the next line to be, how about Chewie? But no, it just came naturally. It was just a natural thing that he started calling him. And that's better than, that. And there was a couple of times where the film restrains itself from winking at the audience like that. So I did appreciate that.
And then?
Any more on Han and Chewie? Natalie, what did you think of their friendship?
I really enjoyed it. The whole, like you said, when he gets thrown into the beast. I know it's really obvious, but at the moment, at the time, I was a bit like, oh, where's this going to do? And then there was like this realisation of, oh my god, it's going to be Chewie. And it was amazing, and then I was really excited. And it was really, really good. Really enjoyed it.
I liked how naturally they fit together as well, like almost immediately. They just bounced off each other so well. Even though I didn't feel Han Solo, I still liked the friendship that they built. And I guess how they had each other's back, I really liked that. So when Chewie was like, I'm going to go free the other Wookiees, and Han says, yeah, off you go, I'll be fine. And then he returns the favour by helping him out. And then sticking around forever.
Yeah, I guess that was probably one of the most fun aspects of the film, was seeing that friendship develop and how they just became best buds pretty quickly.
Yeah. And I thought the funniest scene was where he was playing chess with Woody Harrelson, and he tried to shove all the pieces off the board. Like, you can't do that, they're holograms. You need to think strategy and whatever else.
And he pulled someone's arms off.
He did.
So they got that in there.
They did.
It's good. I think that's why I liked this film, actually. It's just because it doesn't just feel like it's a solo film. It feels like it is us getting to understand how they met and how they became friends. I don't just view it as the solo story, It's both of them.
Also, something I should have mentioned earlier, but Kira knows martial arts that references a really terrible PlayStation game.
What?
When she knocks someone out and L3 says, that's impressive or whatever, and she says it's Terrace Cassie, which is a PlayStation game. It's a Star Wars beat-em-up called Masters of Terrace Cassie, and it is terrible. It's like Soul Calibur if it sucked.
I'm so glad you said that, because I freaking love Soul Calibur.
Yeah, me too. But it's got like the ring outs, and it's got like the weapons, and it's got all that stuff, but it sucks so bad.
I'm so glad you're here to tell us this information about terrible games. Cause
well, as soon as when I heard that reference, I was like, who dug that out? Who put that reference in the script?
They put it in there for you, Craig.
He did.
Just for you.
He did. And whoever else had the misfortune of playing that awful,
just
terrible
you, I think.
game.
Yeah, I've never heard of it.
I'll send
Looking
you
up
a
the sales. Yep, one copy.
I think I may have had an illegal copy of it, so...
Well, someone had to have bought that copy for you to...
for me to take the copy of it.
Yeah.
That's what happened. One person bought it and it was disseminated as an illegal copy for chipped PlayStations. Yeah. I'll send you a YouTube video of it later.
No, thank you.
Yeah, well, tough. It's happening.
Show notes.
Show notes. That's it. So, I don't think I've got much else to say. If you guys have anything else to say, we'll do a bit of a wrap up. Finish off a bit with the rest of the franchise. What do you think we should get from side movies? You know, what would you rather see? Natalie, you alluded to the fact that do we really need to see the Boba Fett movie, the whoever else movie? You know, that droid that droid that breaks in A New Hope before Owen picks R2D2.
I'd watch like a.
Was that R5D4?
I'd watch like a like if they did films like Cooking with Chewie or something, like top 5 dishes on a budget, or like something like that, or if they did like Rome with somebody else, or a day in Hoth, you know, top things to do and see.
Attenborough on Hoth.
Like I'd watch those kind of things, but maybe not as a film, but maybe it's
Follows
like
a family of
special, like a special 8 p.m. program on BBC or something. But yeah, or like how the Millennium Falcon like stays in the sky. You know, the inner workings of the Falcon, you know, or the quest to get to the mechanic at the end of the universe that had the right part or whatever. I'd watch those.
You're watching like how it's made. Yeah, I would. And as long as it had the theme music for it as well, like do and that guy's voice, that'd be fantastic. Now, if that doesn't already exist, I'm gonna bet that it will. Whenever somebody's going to make this happen.
Trademark Kneel Before Pod.
My worry is that you're almost kind of talking about the holiday special here.
Well,
that has stuff like that in it. And you
well, it's better because it sounds fantastic. That's what I want to watch. I don't want to really watch characters.
On YouTube, so go watch it.
Okay, thanks. Show notes. No, but I don't want to watch like all these characters with their own film and own problems. Like, legit, don't care. I'd rather see like a tour of the solar systems. Like, yeah, I'd rather do that. And if they make something like that, then I'll watch it. But you know, the films, I don't know, it might just dilute the whole thing, to be honest. It's not going to make it stronger, I don't think. I think it'll just, like a weak squash. What was the point? A waste of water and a waste of juice. So
a weak squash, fair enough. Angus, what do you want from side films?
2 words. Wilro Hood. I want to know what's going on with that ice cream maker. Why was he saving it from Cloud City?
Wilro Hood, a Star Wars story.
Yeah, but in all seriousness,
I don't get that reference.
I think that they need to move away from the established characters, which they're not going to do because, you know, they've already got...
Well, they might after the box office performance.
Money-making machines out there in Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi standalones, all this kind of stuff. But, you know, if you already know what happens to these people, it's just never as exciting. I would like to see a fresh story, some fresh characters. I think Rogue One was interesting, even though it had that kind of link, or it was very heavily linked to the existing trilogies. You know, a whole load of new characters were introduced, and we didn't know that they were all going to die. Spoiler alert. But they did, and that was kind of exciting because it was something that you haven't seen before. And whereas you're watching a Han Solo movie or a Boba Fett movie or a Lando Calrissian movie or a Gamorrean Guard movie or a Rancor Keeper movie, and you know what's going to happen to them. You know their ultimate fate. Yeah, Malakili, I think, is his name.
Oh dear.
No.
Oh no, I'm crying like he does. Yeah, I want to see some original stuff, and I don't know whether or not they're going to do it because that might be too much of a leap of faith. But yeah, that's where I want them to go.
I'm kind of the same as you. I'm wanting something a bit different. I don't want the origin story of every character in the Star Wars universe. I think they can do something more interesting than that. I mean, I know that they've sort of set Rian Johnson off to do his own sort of trilogy that's set apart from the main story, so I think we are going to get some of that, hopefully, down the line. But a lot of what you hear at the moment is people going, I want a Lando movie, and we're going to have a Boba Fett movie, and we're going to have a... You're like, oh, but do we really want to know all that? And also, it's not fatigue, because we've waited so long for Star Wars to be back. But I think having them so close together has really harmed this film's box office performance. And then it sends out a sort of negative image that isn't true, because I think it is actually quite a good film. No, it is not amazing. It's got its flaws, like we've sort of picked apart in the podcast today, but I think it's actually quite a good film, and I think these things need to be given a chance. And I know it's a money machine, so they're wanting to try and get everything as quickly as possible. They've just got to try and space it out a little bit more, I think. Excuse the pun.
Yeah, I really hate the term fatigue when it comes to these films. I think it's or films like this. It's a weird media term that is just frustrating to read because it makes certain assumptions that audiences are fed up with this stuff. And, the big one is superhero fatigue, where they talk about how audiences are getting fed up with superhero films. It's like, no, they're not. If Infinity War has almost cleared $2 billion at the box office, that's not fatigue. Star Wars still making money hand over fist. There are a myriad of reasons why this one didn't. I speculated as to maybe people don't really want to see the origin stories of familiar characters because your average audience doesn't care. Or maybe it's just that people didn't like it, or the word of mouth was whatever. There are all sorts of reasons. I don't think it's because people are fed up with Star Wars. I think when Episode 9 comes out, people are going to flock to the cinema to see it because it does feel like you're going to get something out of it. It feels like this... It's not a box-ticking exercise where it's like, we need to show these 3 things to make it a Han Solo film. It's something new, potentially something interesting, although maybe not with the director they've hired. Personal bias creeping in there. Second, so for my side films, I want to see new characters, new situations, further exploration of this expansive galaxy. You can go far, far away without worrying about interacting with different people. You can tell a familiar-ish Star Wars story with new faces, with new situations, while still retaining the spirit of it. I would kind of like to see the Old Republic period explored a bit more. I love those games. But at the same time, I don't want to see them retread it. I want something new. There's a lot of time to play with. There's thousands of years of lore that they can toss around. So that's what I want to see. I don't want to see Han Solo. I don't want to see Boba Fett. I especially don't want to see Boba Fett. I find the guy really uninteresting. I don't want to see Vader, a Star Wars story, side character. Any side character you can think of, I don't want to see it. Maybe they can be a cameo in one of them, but maybe not the focus of anything.
I'm going to fast forward to when the Boba Fett film comes out and you raving about it. I can see you being like, holy wonders, this was amazing.
Well, if the Boba Fett film comes out, I watch it and I think it's amazing, then I'll be happy because it means I haven't sat in the cinema and wasted my time. You know,
Unlike all those other times.
Unlike all those other times. You know, I don't look to hate stuff. I want to go and watch something and enjoy it because my time is precious to me and I want to spend it doing something I actually enjoy. I don't want to sit there thinking, I hate this so much. So, I want to like every Star Wars film. It's just, I have my preferences on what I'd rather see and rather not see.
If you need to cheer yourself up, just go and see another one of those I'm dying films.
Please don't die.
Please Don't Die, starring
Emilia
Emilia Clarke. Yeah.
That'll make you feel better.
Yeah, it's like a joke romance film in another film. I don't know. Maybe that's what they watch in the Star Wars universe. Please Don't Die, starring Max Rebo. Yeah. I am kind of interested in the Cantina Band Spinal Tap film. That would be different.
That better be real.
It's not. I made it up. But
Make that happen.
But if Lucasfilm are listening...
What are they called? The modal nodes.
Is that what they're called? I didn't know. I just called them the Cantina Band.
Just make it happen because that sounds like it would be amazing. These are producers, writers, directors, anyone out there that's listening, please help us. Hear our call.
It could be a fan film.
These are the films we want.
Could be a fan film. There's a good fan film community for Star Wars.
Right,
There's all sorts of good
get
ones.
them to do it and then have them replace everything else. Those are
Indeed.
the films I'd like to see. I don't want to see the other ones.
Fair enough. So on that note, it's probably time to end. So, any wrap-up statements that you want to make before we close off and jet off into hyperspace?
I think I've covered it all. Thanks very much.
Decent. Angus, Natalie, any closing statements?
Yeah, if you're in the cinema, don't go until the film starts to avoid seeing that dreadful car advert. And then send in a really angry letter that's covered in like your neighbour's dog shit to the writers of the advert and tell them that they did a bad.
Do you remember when there was the Dark Knight Rises coming out, and I'm sure there was a Skoda advert with Batman footage on it, suggesting that the new Batmobile might be a Skoda.
Jeez, right.
I don't know if it was a Skoda, but I seem to remember there was...
I'm still going to tell you right now that it would not have been as bad an advert as this one, and that's saying something because that's DC.
Indeed.
Those are my closing.
Any non-car advert wrap-up statements?
No, thanks for having us on. It's been fun.
My wrap-up statement is that I've covered everything as well. I thought this film was but I've enjoyed this discussion, so therefore it's justified itself in my head.
Good. That's actually really nice, Craig. That's a really positive way to look at it.
Yeah, that's it. It may have been a underwhelming experience, but it did relate to a good conversation. So there's that. So,
before we end, I was going to say, Chris, I really like your laugh. And whenever you find things really funny, I really enjoy listening to it.
I think I've got a horrific laugh, and I don't envy anyone that needs to edit it out of podcasts.
No, I absolutely love it.
I usually leave it in, because it makes me seem like I'm funny.
In fact, he edits it in more.
No, laugh more. That's all I'm saying.
Laugh more.
I really like it.
Laugh more. You live longer.
Is that true?
Apparently.
And prosper.
Yeah, you live longer and prosper. Yeah. That's a good one. So, if there's nothing else, I will load you into the escape pod and feed you to Space Cthulhu.
I'm in solidarity with the Space Squid.
Well, you can go and be one with the Space Squid. As it slowly digests you over a period of
5,000 years.
So, Angus, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Natalie, thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
And Chris, thank you for being here.
There's this catastrophic extinction level disaster looming, but the real potential disaster is not is only kicked off.
Chris, he was talking to me. He was talking to me, not you. He was. Come on, man. Seriously, we were talking about a different film.
Destroy the entire planet.
Leave the promo tour on tour, man.
Off the coast of Costa
Jesus
Rica,
Christ!
but
Seriously, doing the whole thing. Just come on.
On the entire planet.
Thanks for having me on, Craig.
Was he calling this podcast a catastrophic disaster?
I think so. I think it was an extinction level event.
That's me and Chris Pratt finished. He's not coming.
Chris.
He's not coming
to
over
reality. Chris to Chris. Chris to reality.
Well, you can tell Chris Pratt that he's not coming over for pizza anymore.
Chris to Chris.
Everybody knows they call Chris.
Chris to Chris. Chris to Chris. Chris to Chris. Chris to Chris.
That was our discussion of Solo, a Star Wars story. Thanks to YouTuber 331eRock for the supplied music. If you like what you heard, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button on iTunes, YouTube, or any major podcasting app. iTunes users, we'd love it if you'd leave us a star rating and show us that all-important love. If you have any feedback, then hit us up on Facebook and Twitter under Kneel Before Blog, or leave a comment on kneelbeforeblog.co.uk. As always, we hope you'll join us on the next Kneel Before Pod.